Good afternoon, Blues. It's me and it's Corey. How are we doing, Corey?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's your match day preview for tomorrow. Previously, we've done this earlier on in the weekend, and we felt it was just too disconnected from Monday. But it's coming around now. We've had some Premier League fixtures to whet our appetite, I suppose, going into the weekend. With one particular one that will have gone down quite well amongst the blue contingent, but with only the Newcastle and Arsenal game now in between, Everton's home game against West Ham, of course. We are now looking forward to first of all your company for the next half an hour or so, and the big game under the lights. Corey, got any thoughts about Everton? We're coming on the back of that midweek. It was kind of a game of two halves, but like going into this game, Premier League form's being good, under the lights for the first time in the Premier League at Goodison. What are your thoughts?
I would have thought there's no better chance to put things right than this game against West Ham. I can see as a West Ham fan in the comments, so hope I'm not being too disrespectful when I say this, but this game, of course, Monday night, under the lights, first game at the new stadium, crowd's going to be up for it. Perfect chance for us to put maybe at least get 3 points and put a couple past West Ham. However, obviously the news with Potter leaving, Nuno coming in, that's going to throw things up in the air, but I'm sure we'll discuss that a little bit more as well. But also, I think maybe the fans are going to be a bit nervous going into this game because we've had 2 games on the spin, obviously 2 defeats on the spin, both with some pretty poor performances, certainly the first half or first 20 minutes against the other half, and pretty much the whole match against Wolves. But from the club perspective or the players' squad perspective, that was obviously a massively changed team. So I don't think it would get into the professionals' mind. It's just if that translates to the crowd, are we going to be up for it still? Is there going to be nerves kind of thing? So it's all about how that translates.
Yeah, 100%. It's a different game. It's a different competition. It's a different stage. I was very disappointed with the manner in which that we started the first half last night on Tuesday night. It was very lethargic. But we're here to preview West Ham, but we can't help but think about the previous game going into that, and I think we finished the game much stronger than we started it. But it's sort of a typical cup game where that the crowd connection's key. It just didn't look like the team were quite up for it. But to be fair, other than the defense, which wasn't changed, the attacking 6 or so just we're not really gelling. Now, in a minute, I'm going to be bringing in Jan, so that's going to be adding strength to our squad here, and it's great to have your company.
Thank you very much, my mate.
Yeah, it's been a tough little period for everyone, and you've been under the weather as well. But Everton's form going into this game, it is pretty strong in the league, and we do go in with the 2 wins and the draw. Obviously, the Derby defeat, it kind of, I don't know how much you read into it because we played pretty well, but it happened and we were robbed with injury time and all of that. But West Ham, there they are, rooted right down the bottom. And Jan, thank you for joining us. Looking very trim and always in his Everton gear. How are you?
I'm very good. Is that some sort of comment about the loss of the beard?
Yeah, I know I've seen you since, but I just wanted to point it out for the viewers.
Yeah,
I haven't. Was that Jan? What the hell? I didn't even recognise that was Jan. Whoa, who's this young whippersnapper we've got on? This is 18 years old on first time on the channel.
I know. I honestly, I just, I look at myself and I was like, Christ, I'm 12 again, and it's really, really weird. It's good to be on, and it's good to. No, it's not good. I want it to be good, to be optimistic towards Wolverhampton. Towards West Ham. But look, Wolves were diabolical throughout the season, and we lost to them in the cup. And West Ham have had some appalling results, really, based on what the fans have expected. And I'm just a little bit scared. I don't want to be a naysayer, but I'm a bit scared that we're going to Everton it up and do the Everton thing and give them 3 points.
It's
Scared
just,
of that.
yeah, I get that. I think the match has added more significance now with Potter's sacking, and interestingly, I'm quite glad we didn't do this on Thursday night or Friday afternoon as we originally intended. It was just a complete coincidence that Potter, that they removed him on the same day we rescheduled. So anyone who thought, oh, maybe they were just trying to get their act together, no, it's actually just scheduling. We thought we would try out the Sunday thing with it being 24 hours to
It was
kick
a
off
genius
also.
idea on your part.
Yeah, it could have been. But obviously, the fact that they've, it's a dangerous place to be, isn't it, against a team that sacked their manager, because it galvanizes a squad, it resets them, and they've made the appointment quite quickly. Moyes' old team. There's a lot riding on this game, Corey.
There is. Obviously, West Ham really need to get their act together. Struggling at the moment in general, not just the league, but just in general. Potter's style of play isn't working. But if Nuno's style of play doesn't get working soon as well, then that will also have an effect, because his brand of football is fairly pragmatic. I see West Ham fairly similar to Everton. Fairly working class club. Very much a club who like more aggressive kind of football. They want tempo. They're not after quick passing or anything like that. It's not what they're desperate for, but they want at least some quick tempo. Nuno Espirito
I see the
Santo.
commonality. It's that they've been like us. They've for a couple of decades they've attempted to punch above their weight, like with economical signings and being a selling on club. And when there's local derbies, you expect the emotion of the occasion to make up for maybe what the squad might lack on paper. Is that kind of where you're coming from? Because we like a bit of graft.
I mean, I think in general anyway, they've always had players who've been like to play a bit more direct, a bit more on the front foot kind of thing. You know what I mean? They just like that kind of tempo, very much like us. They like a hard tackle kind of thing. Obviously the Berlin ground, it was very much a place where, like Goodison was, you're close to the fans, you're close to the pitch, and I used to get a lot of that massive similarity between Everton and West Ham. So I think Potter maybe wasn't the right man for them. Probably shows that he probably wouldn't have been the right man for us, even though I was one of the people who thought it's someone that we should maybe take a punt on when we got rid of Dyche. Probably I'm going to be wrong. Probably am. So I think it kind of shows, because I think there's a similar mentality there that it wouldn't have worked for us. It's not worked at West Ham either. The results especially hasn't helped that, but the way they play also. But Nuno is like the complete opposite. He doesn't overpass it. He defends deep. He likes to play in the counter-attack. When we played them and he beat us, was it 2-0? It was a case of Mexican standoff, who blinks first, in terms of who goes defense and who goes attacking. And obviously we blinked first and they got the win over us. So I think, again, he's down the other end and they are going to sit back. Are the West Ham fans going to be have the patience to deal with that?
Well, I think the issue for me is, are we going to have a cohesive enough first team with players in their... Look, I'm not going to fault players for doing admirable jobs, playing out of position. But the reality is there have been marked failures in our... I don't want to use phrases like total football, but we're not playing comprehensively and cohesively across the pitch when you've got players out of position and they look a bit uncomfortable when they're caught on the counter, or they're not of the right physicality to, for instance, not to fault him, but O'Brien playing at right back when he's 6 foot odd and he's destined to be, a centre back. He's not built for the position, because just case in point, how often do you see players of that size and shape playing there? So it's rather frustrating to know that we're not firing on all cylinders, and we have to accept that because we have financial constraints. We had the window. We had attempts to sign players. We've had some, again, continuously unfortunate little injuries and things that go on. And it's rather frustrating that we never quite seem to have that period of allowing the squad to settle into, at least this is the recognised backbone of the team.
Well, we brought players in too late. But as we've seen in previous years with some of the players that came good, and there weren't that many when you think about it, but the likes of Jackie Elka, they looked like a fish out of the water when they first appeared, and then they sort of grew into it. And I think that there are definitely players that need more time before we judge them. I'm going to reserve judgment on a few of the transfers because we're going to go back to setting the scene for this game and go straight into the lineup, seeing as though you touched on our frailties in playing, proper wing backs and so on. But the reason why Potter's being removed is quite there to see. The results have not been good. The fans have become impatient. West Ham lingering there with 3 points. I mean, they are only actually 4 points below Everton. If they got a win, then they would go 1 point behind. So the league at this infant stage is really, it's very hard to properly judge. But as we know from previous seasons with Everton, if you don't pick up early points, it does put you under pressure from day one. And I think with 5 games, 6 games gone for some, pressure does build, and expectation is, it's never really been that bigger, that as big as it is now. I mean, you look at Everton's position, a win takes us on level on terms with Man City. So it just shows you, the drop to West Ham versus Man City. It's almost like one win gets you from 6th to 19th at the moment. So take this with a bit of a pinch of salt. But I think
there have been some alarming results. There have been some strange, unusual results that have hinted at, when you get a draw is always interesting because it lowers the aggregate number of points in a table. And there's been quite a few, and by that same token, upsets, if they're evenly spread across the board, well, you'd hope that Chelsea against Liverpool is more of an upset. It's looking like, okay, it's looking like the table might be temporarily a little bit more even or more openly spaced, but maybe I'm being overly analytical here. The issue for me is, will some rather short-sighted journalists and commenters on the business side of football look at that and see it as incorrectly veiled or an incorrect vindication of things like financial fair play? Because look at how teams. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Sort of. I'm gonna stop you there for a moment because I think you touched on O'Brien, and I think in our typical rambling format, we should probably talk about the lineups and the team and the tactics. And I think that's probably what people want to hear right now.
Absolutely.
But it's a shame that continuously O'Brien, as you mentioned, has had to play in that out of position continuously, because I think we've seen this when Mikadanku is fit with Grealish, and it's only happened about twice, is it adds an extra dimension. It just completely allows the attacking midfielder to go inside. At the moment, I think we've really lacked that ability to bomb on beyond those attacking midfielders, and they're brilliant, but it creates more space. So, Corey, I mean, you're an expert tactician. O'Brien playing right back for what's been almost the entire season so far. How much of a limitation has that been versus, say, like a really
if
good
if you'd have had a fit for purpose right back? I mean, what I would say is, and it's kudos to that's kudos, not kudos, by the way, Matthew Howard. It's kudos to Jake O'Brien that how well he's done, because I think he's done exceptionally well at the right back spot. I think he's decent on the ball. That whole adage of fantastic touch for the big man, he's been exceptional doing things like that, and he does support as much as he can do. But like you've said, there is a big limitation there in terms of he doesn't naturally spread the play, doesn't naturally hug the touchline and make them overlapping runs instinctively. He might do the occasional one, but it's only when he notices it. He doesn't do that instinctively.
And then it's telegraphed by that point.
Exactly. And by that point, the team's already defended deep, telegraphed it exactly. And we play with, at this moment in time, somewhat inverted wingers. Now, I know Njai's right-footed, playing on the right-hand side, so he does try to get past his man a little bit. But he still wants to come inside all the time, even if it is on his weaker foot. So he's still fairly inverted. When you're doing that, you need to create the space out wide by having the overlapping player. The overlapping fullback will overlap, drag someone in, and it either adds an extra bit of space to move in, isolates him for Njai to run in the box. And it's the same on the left-hand side for Grealish as well. Mikalenko offers you that a bit more naturally, being left-footed and being a fullback. He is also not massively attacking, so I think that's why Adam Asnu's been brought in, because whereas he's certainly not got the physicality, he's probably not ready yet, as we can see from his lack of inclusion on the pitch, his lack of minutes. I think he will eventually, even if it's later on in the season, do the more attacking side of things, because if you've watched him when he was in Spain, even the 1 or 2 appearances he's had in Germany for Bayern, he wants to get that. He's a proper wing back. He wants to hold the touchline. He wants to get down, and that will then create the space to cut inside. The issue that we've seen at times is when James Garner, who has played exceptional left back, but he is inverted at that point as a fullback because he's cutting in on his weak foot, and especially with Seamus Coleman, because Seamus Coleman, whereas Garner is inverted and he won't overlap, and that still means that your winger, your Jack Grealish, is completely isolated on that side. He's still dealing with 2 men. Garner at least comes in the middle and supports that. Coleman against Wolves, and I know this isn't a Wolves post-match, but Coleman doesn't have that instinct to move into midfield, even and pack the midfield, which what your inverted fullbacks do.
Because he's mindful of his age, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's defending anyway. His whole thing is to stay wide, play the fullback role, but he's still playing it on his weak foot, so he's not going to naturally overlap. He's not going to use his left foot, and he's not going to push and add numbers to the midfield to still support. So that's why we massively struggled against Wolves, and I think that's one of the biggest issues that we had, is playing Coleman there. If you played Garner there, it wouldn't have been too bad. I think we'd have probably done a lot better. But that's
I've just popped this up courtesy of our friends at Football 365. But basically, and no affiliation, there are other betting platforms out there. But basically, Everton's lineup is more likely to be this, isn't it?
If Mikalenko's fit, yes, definitely.
This is the first. I mean, this is the strength of lineup, and maybe not January. I don't know, but at some point, he's got to be thinking about that right back position. How much of an impact does it have when you have a full back? I mean, we saw this before with other Everton defenders where they've had to play that full back position. How much of an impact does that then have on the left hand side? Does that give Mikalenko or somebody else a license to bomb on more? Does that cause an imbalance? Is that Garner then stepping back? He's done really well, Garner, in covering, but is it putting more impetus on these defensive midfielders?
Not necessarily. It can do, but it really depends. I mean, if we look back to Moyes' first stint with us, a lot of the times, I mean, he used when we got Baines in, he used Lescott at left back first while he blooded Baines in him, gotten used to the physicality and the speed of the Premier League from the Championship. And all it means is that back four, may shift into a bit of a back three. Mikalenko pushes up. He then supports the midfield, adds a little pressure there. So it depends on how you do it. If we're going to be flexible and Moyes has coached it to move into that back three, which is what we did at times in his first tenure here, then not necessarily. It depends on how intentional it is. If it's just a case of we've got that and that's not part of the tactics and we don't build into it, then yeah, because you're not going to have that support with both fullbacks into the midfield, which then means you're either outnumbered in the midfield, you don't win the midfield battles, or one of your wingers is going to have to drop back, and again, then you can't play on the shoulder. The back line's not as tested, not as busy as they should be.
But it makes it also makes it easy. Go on. It makes it easy to play against, doesn't it, Jan? If you know one of their fullbacks aren't going to be able to move up the pitch in the same way.
No, it doesn't. I disagree. Sorry, and here's why. It can make our football look sterile because we don't have the joined up attacking, defending, transition, challenging, all the kind of transitional play, right? But we have defended very well and admirably. We've not conceded very many goals from being under the cosh. We defend very well, and we don't give ourselves sort of the stress of going, oh God, we're going to concede here solidly for 5-10 minutes when we're under pressure. We go, no, we're defending well. So the issue being, Gaspipe just brought up there, why always 2 defensive midfielders? Well, what I believe Moyes is doing now is what he's done in the past. As you say, you put Lescott or centre-backs at full-back, and it gives them a situational awareness of what their colleagues and their teammates will do when they're caught under pressure, when they are then in future playing as a centre-back, because their full-backs have gone forward, and they're going to have to slot in and cover the channel, and either that's with a defensive midfielder such as Garner, who's got experience at playing at full back, who might be one for the future, or they slot into centre back and a centre back then covers the full back position. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, because they'll clearly have had tactical instructions not to do that, because Keane and Tarkowski are not the kind of players that you want covering full back positions. So to give the youth and the speed that O'Brien has to put in there, it makes sense. But the trouble is, people don't want to understand. They want success, they want results, they want, why can't they just do that and just do better? Because, well, maybe you have to accept the cards on the table, which is the players that we've got available. And then moving forward, you know, we're not seeing the maximum of Everton. We're not seeing the maximum of the players on the pitch because there's still a few key places that are missing. So to go back to Wolverhampton, people are saying, well, you know, yes, it was an aberration, but do you want Moyes to put out the strongest team and treat it like a match that's got to be super serious? Or do you want him to continue to experiment early in the season in, let's be honest, league position is far much more important than the League Cup, especially when it gets to the higher level and everybody's going to be throwing everything in it if they get to the later stages. I'd rather us progress and have the continued momentum of seeing Grealish in bed and hopefully sign at the end of the season. I'm sorry I've gone on for a long time, but
no, that's fine,
you know,
Jan. I mean, to add to that, I would say that I think a lot of Evertonians are extremely frustrated because they saw the League Cup, as we do every year, as probably the only opportunity, other than the FA Cup, of adding any type of silverware hopes this year. And it's 30 years since we've won a trophy, and so it's so frustrating that we've gone out yet again. All right, we've not had to suffer through a penalty shootout, but we've been lethargic in that first half. We've not been up for it in the way that Everton players should be, and there's no real excuse. Maybe Liverpool, we gave it a hell of a lot of a go in that second half at Anfield, but I suppose he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. There's no win for Moyes because if he plays his first team, you know, they may be a bit fatigued from the match 72 hours ago at Anfield. And then he's got to think about his next game in the league. As you say, the points, the prize money and all that comes with it. So if you just joined us, thanks for joining us with the preview here for West Ham. Just to bring everyone up to date, Branthwaite is still out. And Merlin Roll is also unavailable. So that's your team news. There's not really a lot to add.
Can I add one thing, though, to somebody who does regularly watch? I'm not sure if they comment. He's bumped into me quite a few times. Lovely guy. Big shout out to Graham. I think I bumped into him at the Palace match. So, yeah. Hi, Graham. Just that.
Hi, Graham.
Thanks, guys.
Obviously, for West Ham, we can come back to this in a minute. But for West Ham, they have Thomas Souček out as well. He's suspended. It's the second of the 3 matches that he has to serve because he was sent off against Spurs, I believe. And Wan-Bissaka is out with a tummy issue.
Well, can I just say, how many of you are a little bit scared of Everton defending really, really well despite not getting any or seemingly inconsistent refereeing decisions and then conceding a late Ward-Prowse free kick for something that shouldn't have been a foul?
He's a player that I think a lot of Evertonians probably wanted to bring in for his prowess with set pieces.
But to be fair, even with that being the case, his ability, I mean, his energy in the pitch isn't the greatest. I find he really, really struggles. That's one player, yeah, Matthew Howard's correct. He's, for me, might be one of their most dangerous players. And I think, obviously, that predicted lineup there is 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, which is what Potter's been playing. However, Nuno likes to play 5 at the back. He usually plays 5-2-3 or 5-2-2-1. So the question is he going to stick with that lineup there, or is he going to go to 5 at the back? Walker-Peters would be a wing back. Malick Diouf is a fantastic player. Him in a wing back position would be really, really dangerous. And then,
yeah, I was going to say you'd expect on paper that to be quite an industrious team. So you'd think that maybe he wouldn't need to put 5. I don't know. So it doesn't. It seems to be one that's got legs or engine. So why would you have 3 centre backs? Or you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, Nuno likes to play 3 centre backs, keeps that back line covered at all time. They drop deep. You've got it's essentially you got 5 men who will defend, play deep. He is very much pragmatic, defence first, likes to catch on the counter attack. But then what that means is that back 5 will then become a back 3 or a back 4 as one of the wing backs gets really wide, and then your wide players get really, really tight, playing centrally between the lines for the attacker, and then they outnumber and overload the back lines. So that's how he likes to play. This West Ham team, if you look at the players, they're more built to play between the lines. Fernandes, fantastic player they bought from Southampton, can play anywhere in that midfield role, similar to Keenan Dewsbury Hall, can very much play between the lines. Paqueta, certainly. Bowen anywhere across the front 3, they're probably the most dangerous player. And Caicedo Somerville. I wouldn't.
Hang on a second. Hang on, Corey, though. Let's just look at that lineup for a second because we're making an assumption, isn't it? Didn't we see Ward-Prowse come on as a substitute when we watched a game or we were talking about a game earlier in the season. Wasn't there a game that he started where he hasn't actually started every, so as a couple of West Ham fans here have been saying, maybe he won't start. I don't know. It's just worth exploring the possibility.
But
We don't know.
But this is the thing, Matthew Howard just touched on that. He doesn't have the legs, and we said about being industrious with the Nuno team. Like, you'll have your wing backs, you'll have your players who can play between the lines, your wide players, Bowen, Somerville, possibly, and then the two players who make that midfield too. Obviously, you've got the wing backs and things like that, are usually players who are fairly good all-rounders. They have to be technically very, very good because they're doing all the jobs in the centre, but they also have to be quite physical as well. Ward-Prowse doesn't have that kind of engine anymore. He's very much a set-piece specialist and will sit there and maybe try and break the play up a little bit, but that's not his kind of play. So Matthew Howard's correct. It could be a case of Fernandes and Paqueta play the central midfield role, and they bring someone in at centre-back instead of James Ward-Prowse. So you'd have Diouf, Kilman, Mavropanos, another centre-back, Walker-Peters, Fernandes, Paqueta, Somerville, Bowen, just close to Fulkrug kind of thing. But to be honest, for me, that's what the team I'd probably expect them to put out. But again, it's a case of he's had a Saturday and a Sunday to prepare for this, or half a Saturday and a Sunday to prepare for this game. Is he just go for the normal formation he's played, or is he going to go straight in with his preferred formation at 5 at the back, 5-2-3?
And we've been in this position ourselves so many times with the manager change around and not having much time, typically interim managers and so on. They've obviously appointed, and surely Nuno will not want to get beat in this game. So I fully expect Everton to have more possession than they might normally have. And I don't know what you guys think about this, but the lineup and the way that the fluidity and the expression that the midfield has now, the creativity, probably works better if we don't have the ball as much. So when we've got the ball, how are we going to break them down? Do you think, is it going to happen naturally, or how do you see the flow of this game? Do you see it being like Brighton? Do you see it being more like the Wolves away game? How do you see this all taking shape?
I think it starts off with, I think West Ham will come out and they'll just look to defend. They will look to slow the game down, defend it, frustrate the crowd. Like I said, we're probably going to be up for it. I think we're going to be up for it. Evening game, floodlights. We used to know what Goodison was like that. Now we've got it, the first one in the Premier League. So hopefully all the fans are going to be up for it. And I think West Ham's thing will be just frustrate them. Whatever the formation they play, I think it's going to be frustrate them as much as possible. Let's just get the basics right. Let's just defend, and then if we get a draw, look, that's a positive start. Or if we can defend, counter, get a win, I think that's what the mindset will be from Nuno, and I think the mindset will be from West Ham. They've got the players to catch you on the break. Bowen, very good. Somerville has got legs. He's not rapid, but he is fast. Again, Diouf on the left-hand side. He's got a lot of pace as well. So I think that's how they'll try and do it, catch on the counter-attack. They could play Callum Wilson. He's got a fantastic record against us. So if they play him instead of Fulkrug again, look, he's not as physical as he used to be, but he's definitely got more pace than Fulkrug. So I think they could certainly look to catch it on the counter-attack. That's how I think it's going to go. Our defensive line isn't the fastest. Obviously, Mikalenko is one of the slowest fullbacks, and the other three are rather large, cumbersome centre-backs anyway. So I think they're probably just going to look to catch it on the counter-attack. And that's why I think James Garner will have to play quite deep to quell that. Just Garner Gay will always go looking for the ball, whether that's defensively or defensively. So he may abandon his central midfield position, which we know that's what happens. And that's why we have Garner, who's more of a holding player, who will more sit inside that the centre area and hold, sweep everything up otherwise. So I think Garner needs to be at his best if he's going to be playing central midfield and Mikalenko with a left back. Depends on fitness.
I think he will be. I'm just putting that back up. Jan, do you see any different pattern of play from your this very astute analysis of how things might go?
Yes, West Ham with the managerial change and wanting to grab points and knowing that the reality is we can be a bit fragile at times. Our resilience is not as it should be because we have we don't have a solid, consistent basis for success, for digging deep and overcoming those. And admittedly, we've had some consistent frustrations with results not reflecting performance and what the players have put in, and that can play on mentality. So, with that in mind, I mean, to touch on what you said, to then whether West Ham will be aware of this, or it will factor in their thinking, because a team brings their own style of play. They don't think necessarily primarily about the opposition if they think that there's an opportunity of getting points there. I mean, look, if it's Wrexham against, well, you know, or Leyton Orient against Man City, you know, there's a different argument. But the point being, you say that we maybe look better off the ball or with less of the ball. I think it's only because it's frustrating to see us not our play not culminate in the chances, the crosses, the attempts on target, the half, you know, all these little moments, because we're not operating entirely as a cohesive footballing unit. So we're not having players running to make space or asking for the ball. And as you say, it's frustrating to see players not. Anyway, so because when West Ham are going to come to us, I think they're actually going to try and come and get an early goal. And yeah, frustrate us. They're going to try to play football, attacking. That's what I suspect. Whether they'll be found out, whether they'll be able to do that, I don't know. But we're capable of defending well. But that's what I think they're going to try and do for the first 25 minutes, half an hour.
Well, whichever way it goes,
our heads go down.
Whichever way it goes, everyone will be inside the ground, and we'll try and connect with the preview, because the Wi-Fi is a lot better now. Well, you can get signal for one compared to being at Goodison. And of course, we will be trying to go live as soon as possible after the whistle. Not sure we're doing a watch along, to be honest. A lot of us are at the ground or inside the ground, and hopefully we stay inside the ground for the full 90 plus minutes, because when we leave early, you know, it's not a good thing. All you have to do is score first, and we'll give you a good game. Look, when I've seen Everton, I just feel like the creativity has improved significantly, and that's allowed players to look better on the ball, because when you have more skillful players who are comfortable in possession and you are able to look up and see who's around them, like Ndai, Drewsbury Hall and Grealish, it feels more assured. But I think the weakness has been really in the fact that we've not had that clinical striker that can really distract defenders. And I think that brings me on to the next point, which is it's really a toss of the coin whether you give Barry or Beto a game. Guys, it's just a problem at the moment. I mean, I'm actually a big Beto fan. I love the guy, but is it the fact that we haven't got a Lukaku up there that isn't making us look like a brilliant team? Like, we're just looking like a goodish team.
Go on, Jan, I'll let you go first, mate.
We don't have Erling Haaland. We don't have well, pick a player. You know, I don't mean to be disparaging, because at some point, you know, you make your name, and I don't want to knock a player's confidence, but it's not a marquee signing. Neither of those players, before they came up on that we could be signing this player, and I hadn't heard of either of them.
They must be sitting there, Jan, because I know how American owners work. And they must be going, we need to spend money on the striker. And Moyes must know that a clinical striker could be the difference between finishing 10th and finishing 5th, right? It literally is that clear cut from my point of view. Agree or disagree? But is there a big shortage of viable strikers that would fit in with the cultural values, the way that Moyes likes to play, which is typically one striker with a lot of midfielders, and their setup? Is the problem that there is real absence of players out there, or are there players that you think, if we got someone like X from, I don't know, Serie A or Barcelona or Championship?
You want me to be honest? Whether it's gas pipe or people talking, and I'll just throw this out there, whether it's people talking about Beto's composure, or whether we're talking about the isolation of a player, yeah, okay, that highlights their shortcomings if they don't have the strength or the awareness or the tactical nous to distribute the ball into space where one of their players that are following up is going to run onto it. But the point is, fault him all you like, injuries, failure, all this kind of stuff. But at the very least, Calvert-Lewin could hold a ball up and distribute it to somebody else so that we keep possession rather than it just going out for a throw-in or a goal kick. Okay, it's not so bad if it's a corner, but when it's a lucky one because he's played it against a defender rather than because it's a corner and they've had 3 defenders running over because we've had 2 men coming in and 2 are going into the box. It's a different, you know, as you say, the reason why they get found out or sorry, the reason why we a marquee signing or a recognised player or who would we sign is because who's going to come and be a Lukaku when most of them seem to be at already recognised teams? Who's going to be that
It's not easy,
who's going to be the
is it, though?
hungry,
I mean,
strong?
if you think about the players that we have tried to bring in over the time, okay, Andy Johnson, poacher, did well. James Beattie, meh. Moise Keane, meh. There's a whole load of them, right? Where we brought them in, and we could probably go through a list. I think, Jan, you could probably recycle them.
Moyes has never been good with strikers. He can coach any kind of player other than a striker. He's shown us it his years with us. Even when he had someone like Andy Johnson, who wasn't exactly world class, but he was fast and he could score goals, he didn't know how to use them. Andy Johnson did not hold the ball up and didn't run the channels well enough for David Moyes, so we got rid of him. David Moyes, a miss, by the way, is not me like absolutely slandering Moyes. It's always been the case. We know this. Everyone moaned about it when he went on his first stint. He can't do strikers. He can't. He went to West Ham, got Schumacher in, could not use Schumacher. He was absolutely garbage there. He's gone to Italy to go to Atalanta, and he's been brilliant. Been brilliant at Atalanta. So I think a part of it's on Moyes. I do think a lot of people have shouted for this. We should get a dedicated striker coaching just for the strikers that Moyes doesn't have to deal with as much. But also Moyes wants that control on the strikers. The reason he's brought up, we had a choice of a couple of strikers to go for in the summer, yeah? We couldn't get the best of the best, the proven ones already, because they are 60, 70, 80 million.
100 million, yeah.
Voltemada, he's had one good season, I really think is exceptional, and I would have liked him because he would have been a different kind of player to Beto. We couldn't afford him anyway, but Moyes wouldn't have gone for him because of the way he plays. Moyes wants someone who's big, who's physical, who's going to run the channel, who's going to make things difficult for defenders. Thierry Barry is probably the one who most fits that, him or Emmanuel Omega. The big, decent bit of strength, they've got pace, yeah? Barry is an evolution of Beto in that he will take up the same positions, and not necessarily the same player, but he will take up the same positions. They'll carry the back line.
He's got more grace and elan to his
in the second half, Anfield, we did look better, but I don't know whether that was just a melting pot of factors.
What I will say in regard to this, I was watching the match, and although Beto was poor, I was a bit surprised that he took Beto off at half-time, because I thought the issue in that game was the tactics. Again, I don't want to make this too much about a post-match, but it was a case of we should have got them. I said in the preview we should have attacked, waited for them to come into our box, come into our half, once their defence, approach the centre circle, once their back line approach the centre circle, then that's when we press them. An aggressive press from that point on. We either didn't press at all, allowed them to have all the ball, and when we did, it was a half-baked press, and they were able to play through the lines. We left too much space behind the defence in between. We just need to make that compact. We didn't do that. When we did do that, things changed. But we didn't do that, and we were poor. No one was there to support Beto. Beto won the odd ball, but not very many. But there was no one there to support him.
And he didn't get the protection, because a lot of the time he was being crowded out or pushed over that were genuine fouls, and he wasn't getting them.
Yeah. I mean, even look, it's a physical battle, especially in the derby, and you're going to let a couple go. But I think if we'd have used him in the second half, I'm not saying we'd have won, by the way, but I think if we'd have not maybe changed Beto in that half and kept him on and just changed the tactics, I think we'd have had more success. I think Barry is the natural successor for Beto, or not natural evolution, in that they play the similar kind of game, take up the same positions, run the channel, same kind of forward. However, Beto's got a lot more physicality to him, a lot rawer. He's probably got a bit more confidence in the league as well in terms of his scoring, despite he's not been great. And Barry's still fairly green in terms of it. He's been 3 different leagues in 3 different years. It's a much more physical league than he's used to. He will get used to that, and he will be able to hold his own. But I think he's struggling at the moment. So I think you keep Barry. If there's a game where you think you're going to need to keep the ball a lot more, and it's not going to be a physical centre-back fight, then you maybe just play him. But the default for me would be Beto. I know a lot of people don't like him. I know he's not attractive to watch. But I do think he can. I do think he's probably the best of the two. And I said this, and I still say it now. I think give him enough chances, he will. He will get you 15 goals. I think we look better when we counter-attack with the team that's set up. We've got 2 holding midfielders, Dewsbury Hall and number 10. We look better when we counter-attack. That's the kind of football that we like to play. Maybe not sit back and counter, but a mid-press counter further higher up the pitch. The reason that we're struggling to break teams like Aston Villa were coming to defend, the reason we can't beat them is because we don't have the wing backs, the full backs to overlap. They can get deep. We can't break that line down. Beto's not the kind of guy to give and go the ball. And also, Dewsbury Hall in that number 10 role, he's good on the counter-attack because he's leggy, he'll get up, he'll swap with Grealish. That's where his goals have come from when he's counter-attacking. If there's games where we set up like we do, go pragmatic, starts off with the 2 holding midfielders, get a foothold in the game. If we're not winning or if we're losing, come 50, 60 minutes, change it. Take Gale Garner off, bring Dewsbury Hall back, because for me personally, he's a box-to-box, he's a number 8 more than a 10. And then you bring a Diblin in, put Grealish in the middle, you put an Alcaraz in instead, and you go more attacking and more creative at that point. For me personally, that's where Moyes has kind of let himself down, is that he's setting the team up okay, we're doing well. Even games where we're not winning, we're still very much competitive. We're hard to beat. And even games like Villa where we're dominating, even Wolves where we were rubbish, but we still had more of the ball, we just were not able to break the team down. At that point, he should move Dewsbury Hall deeper and bring someone else on. Whereas against Wolves, again, another issue, he took Alcaraz off, who, although wasn't great, was probably our most dangerous looking player, and put Dewsbury Hall on. He should have took Eric Boonham off, or a holding midfielder off, put Dewsbury Hall deeper, use a box-to-box, be a bit more progressive in midfield, and then you have the number 10.
Dewsbury Hall's industrious, and he's fantastic at being able to create a little bit of space to distribute or move the play forwards. Yes, I completely agree with you, because what we need to do against... Sorry.
No,
what we need to do against West Ham to really neutralise any attacking intent from them, in my mind, is to really limit certain players' abilities to play. Like Jared Bowen is quite capable of dictating certain elements and moments of the game, and certainly with Lucas Paqueta behind him, if he's quite a frustrating player. Now, if you can cancel and nullify them, if you can get Idrissa Gana Gueye on Paqueta and make sure that the Keane and Mikalenko have got Bowen in their pocket or something like that, it's really kind of useful. And then maybe West Ham do get frustrated. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I'm anticipating a similar game to the one where Villa came, obviously having not scored. I know different sides with different aspirations and quality, but almost a similar approach to the game. Obviously, Everton.
But we haven't beaten them in a while, have we?
Have a decent record against West Ham. Before we go to predictions, I thought I'd throw this up just to show you previous games. Losing against West Ham. Then the 1-1 as well. That was all from last year. And then there was the goalless. I mean, read into it what you want. I mean, it's a new stadium, a new year. Everton have cleared out half the team. Pickford's probably the only one there. And I think we should mention him, because the thing is, a lot of Evertonians forget that, yeah, we've looked defensively solid, but Pickford still is making those worldly stops. And anyone who's watching us on a week in, week out knows that he's kept us in the games. It's quite clear from our chat today that everyone is happy that Moyes is able to keep Everton competitive, but does lack that creative nous and ability to get the most out of his striker, to be able to make those reshuffles in midfield to allow us to try and take the initiative to the next side. But I think with Moyes, you get someone who you can fully trust in. You know what you're going to get. You don't have that disconnection with the fan base and players that we've had. So we can't have everything.
But we are having that disconnect where I think people are expecting a little bit. They're not being realistic with the expectations that are being presented to them. We don't have a say in the players that get signed, right? And it is frustrating when they're not first team ready. You talk about growing and are they ready? Are they settled into the league? But the truth is, you can get youth players or you can get signings that are immediately ready. Iliman Ndiaye was immediately ready. Jack Grealish, because he's already Premier League quality, but he's immediately ready to slot into the first team. Is Adam Asnu, and he's got an injury. Okay, he might be
a very bad injury because he's been...
Mikalenko was ready. He might not be the best left back, but he's ready. And he was ready. Nathan Patterson wasn't ready. So the issue being, do we have our expectations and standards up here that we're expecting to sign players that immediately walk into the squad, hit the ground running, and elevate the team? Or so then, if not, then you have to ask yourself why. Why do we not get players in that are Premier League ready? And then is that because of their poor signings? Is that because there's something we don't know, or is it because we have to manage our expectations and realise, like I say, that playing Jake O'Brien at right back instead of Patterson or Coleman is because maybe it's better to invest in Jake O'Brien's long-term experience than it is in Patterson if Moyes is somehow going to get rid of him, or there's no point because Coleman's not going to be here next season. I don't know, but it's sorry.
One thing that's for certain in my eyes, Jan, is that Everton are chronically. We have a habit of almost every season bringing in players that are good or bad or terrible. They're brought in with seconds to spare, and they're not able to give them. They're not given the full preseason. I think Barry. There's a lot of people that see potential in him, and he needs to be given time. And I think with Beto, if you start him with 10 games, I think Jan might disappear now. If you start him 10 games, he's going to get goals, but there's going to be games where he doesn't look so great. Let's bring him back in. Oh, okay. Maybe it's internet, so but dodge it. I think you've just got to play Beto for a number of games. Keep Barry ready because he's going to be the sort of player that improves over time. Beto, you sort of see that, he's got probably more. He's more likely to score, I think, Beto, given a chance at the moment. But that might have been because he's had more games or so and so on. Anyway, we'll move on to predictions because everyone wants to go and watch Newcastle, Liverpool. I think Corey might have some sort of party do and so on. But let's start with you, Jan. Going to put you on the spot. I'm just going to ask you for the score. And if there are any scorers, you're more than welcome to ad lib.
Do you know what? 3-0.
3-0. So there you go, Everton. Everton with a performance that probably makes West Ham review their managerial appointment. Corey?
2-0 late on. I think Beto and Ndiaye with the goals.
So you think Beto will start and he'll score before getting kicked off?
I think it's 0-0, gets to about 60-odd minutes, 65 minutes. Beto scores just before coming off, and then we go on and score another one about 80 minutes. Ndiaye.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we get an early goal. We said that. The Villa game would have been so much different had Everton taken one of those early chances. It allowed Villa to come into the game. They grew in confidence. They actually did a really good job on the second half. And I think, I'm going 1-0. It's going to be one of those games. I think it's going to be tight. With not really either side wanting to lose.
I was laughing at gas pipes.
I love the comments always. I think it's going to be tight, as it always is. I think that I'm looking forward to it. But it's not going to be the easiest game. None of them are, and I sound at risk of sounding a bit like Moyes himself. A lot of people were frustrated by the number of changes he made, but I think he'll bring back the main lineup, the ones that started against Liverpool. There you have it. Thanks for joining us for this preview. Let us know what you think. Do you like the previews on a Sunday if it's a Monday, on a Saturday if it's a Sunday, a Friday if it's a Saturday? We think it might be better. However, we sometimes go live on a Thursday, Friday to give people a chance to watch it over the weekend. We don't mind, but we love your feedback. And if you want to get in contact, we're on X. We're on YouTube, of course. Make sure you like, subscribe.
No.
The postman, the milkman, everyone you know. And we'll be live before and after the whistle with team news, reaction, and so on. As I said, a lot of us are going. Jan, Corey, are you doing any coverage of the game? Are you?
I don't know yet, to be honest. I'm still trying to get a ticket to go to the match. I keep seeing the occasional ticket pop up, but
yeah. Okay, Corey, we'll see what we can do to get you in there. But yeah, for everyone else who's going, not going, it is on Sky Sports. It's also an 8:00 kickoff, which I think is important because the League Cup was 7:45 and there were problems and it ended up with a delayed kickoff, I believe, because of that. But then there were ticketing options and so on. Look,
that
so
did
much
mean that me and Jan got our salt and pepper chicken on time, though, didn't it, mate? Otherwise, we'd have missed that salt and pepper chicken if we didn't have that delay.
It was a good. It was good.
Also,
what would be really interesting to see. is whether things are a bit smoother than they were against Mansfield, with it being a night game. It is a bit of a nightmare transport-wise for those that are coming from work and so on, because it's not as easy to get to. But yeah, enjoy the game, everyone. We look forward to seeing you on the other side. Jan, Corey, thanks for your company today.
Steve, can I just say,
just if Everton,
closing comments.
Go on, Jan, you go first.
If anyone from Everton is watching, you know, I've been in touch with fans from other things, and I will promote another video recently that's coming out. I spoke to a lovely guy who knows a lot about different football stadia around the country. But we have a great opportunity to really endear the fans to the new stadium, and especially away fans or anything like that. And it also eases with the congestion. The club have great opportunities to offer incentives to fans to be in the ground earlier. Not just some gimmicky thing on an app, but real measurable reductions, savings, deals on food and other entertainment that could be provided in the ground to get people in there earlier than 8 o'clock. That's all I'm saying. I'll leave it there.
And then can I just say as well, because that's a very, very good, well-made point, Jan. Thank you to everyone who's obviously joined us, all the Evertonians, all the Toffees who join us every single time. We appreciate you all. But also just a big thank you to Frog and Noel and Matthew Howard as well, two West Ham fans who've been in the comments today. Look, we appreciate rival fans, other teams joining us, letting us know your thoughts. It is quite informative for us. Obviously, I watch a couple of games, but we don't really get to live it like you guys do. But we appreciate your input today, lads. Everyone's been quite civil with it. So I appreciate that. We appreciate you joining us. Like, subscribe, even if you're not an Evertonian. But if you are an Evertonian, what you're doing if you haven't already subscribed. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well said, guys. Apart from maybe 27-0. That wasn't obviously it's a bit tongue in cheek there. Yeah. Anyway, from me, Stevie, Jan, of course, Corey, and everyone at the Follow Everton team. We love having your company, and I'd like to round up by saying up the Toffees.
Up the Toffees, yes.